Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right, welcome everybody to this episode of the Real Freedom Podcast. And super excited about today's guest. We're going to talk about some things that we haven't covered in the past. I've got Jas Takhar here, and you're in Canada. Which is one thing that's different from some of the guests that we have on, but you've built and grown a very successful real estate team, 700 units. In the past 5 years, you've been 1, 2, or 3 every year in units and GCI. So you've built something really big in the real estate space. And what's also really exciting is you've built a great brand in terms of marketing yourself, marketing your team and your company. You've interviewed some awesome folks. So just for those people that may not know who you are, some of my favorites here: Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Ryan Serhant, Bob Proctor, Gary Vaynerchuk. That's awesome. So I want to share, how you've been able to build and grow a brand and how that's helped to fuel your real estate business. So welcome, Jas. We're so excited to have you on. Why don't you just take a few minutes and share more about your background?
I will, buddy, for sure. And thank you for all those kind words, man. I wish I can keep you around in my pocket. You're really good for my ego. I forgot a lot of the stuff that you mentioned. I mean, there's just so much going on in my life, in and around my team and the office. If your listeners obviously can't see, but the viewers, the office that I'm in right now doubles down as my sales office, is also my studio for my podcast. And some of the guys and gals that you mentioned, as I mentioned, I totally forgot that I've even sat down with them. It's all been really a whirlwind these past few years once I got started with content creation. But I grew up as a sales guy, man. I've been selling since I think the day I came out of mommy. I never stopped asking and selling for milk, and I kept going. My first true paid job with selling something was newspapers when I was 12 years old. Then I went into footwear, and not the Al Bundy kind of footwear, like more helping people with like helping sprinters and marathon runners. So really needed to get an understanding of what somebody wanted by asking questions. Just started to kind of like layer on the skill set of selling, and then went into the banking industry, then went to car sales for about 3 years or so, and then just felt like I was about to hit a ceiling. I was still young. I was in car sales from like 19 to 22. But as I looked around, I saw like amazing people, still talk to these people till this day. But I realized like, wow, they've been there for 15, 17 years. And they've hit a ceiling, like in terms of their income, but also just their growth. Like some of these guys and gals that are still there, they got that down pat. Like they know what the heck they're doing when it came to selling cars or as a business manager. I just felt there wasn't that much growth. And then I started to look around and say, okay, what is really the next rung on this ladder of sales? And I said, the next biggest ticket item is real estate, helping someone buy, sell, or invest, on top of wanting to be an investor myself. Like I read maybe 1 or 2 books. I wasn't a big reader as a young guy, like especially in my teenagers. But I also watched my parents, my father being a taxi driver his whole life, my mother being a factory worker, and just noticing that because they rented out their basement apartments, because they invested in a little bit of real estate here and there, it helped them. I have 2 older brothers, and growing up, it's not that we had everything, but we also didn't grow up with nothing, right? And a lot of it was because my mother offset the expenses of having 3 boys playing sports, all the house expenses, groceries, bills, by renting out properties. I wanted that as well. And I was like, I got to do this real estate thing. Got my license, thinking that I was going to learn how to invest in real estate. Anybody who's a licensed realtor will come to learn really quickly that that's not what these courses are about. They're just so you don't get sued as a real estate agent, which is important. important, but that's not what I was really getting into it for. But as I got my license, I decided to give this a real a kick at the can, so to speak. And I got really blessed bumping into a gentleman at a seminar, believe it or not, that he was just, I think he was selling like some type of coaching program. I was at a big brand office, like the one with the balloon. I mean, we all know them, great company, but it just wasn't working for me. And he took me under his wing, and he became my older brother. We became business partners for 13 years. He tragically passed away about coming up to about 4 years ago, and that's when my thirst and my obsession started with building a personal brand that you spoke about. I started with a podcast, and the rest is history, as they say, man. But very blessed to have 47 real estate agents on my team now, with my current business partner, and 11 support staff that definitely are the giants that I'm standing on the shoulders of. These group of people, led by my creative director and my VP, are just amazing souls. They would run through walls for me. They know I would do the same for them, and that helps us do those 700. That helps us help 700 buyers, sellers, and investors every year.
Awesome. Well, so let's start then on the early side for the real estate team specifically, and we'll kind of have the conversation grow from there. So when you were first starting out, getting business, how did that start to grow for you? And then I know people are obviously curious, like, how does that turn into a team and staff and that sort of thing? So kind of talk about that early end, how it blossomed from you to a team.
Yeah. So when I got into the business, just before I met the business partner and mentor of mine that passed away, when I was on my own, which was very, like, for a very short period of time, like literally, I think it was 3 months that I was on my own. And I just know myself. I knew that I needed to get around someone that was already doing what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And that's my number one tip to not only a new real estate agent, Mike, but I mean, anyone who's getting into any type of new space, a new industry, is just reverse engineer the whole process. Like Tony Robbins, I think, is one of the best personal development speakers out there. I mean, he's coined the saying that success leaves clues, and it does, right? You want to be a great podcast host, like check out what Mike's doing and reverse engineer what he's been up to, right? And so what I did is find that person. And so when I got with him, our vision really quickly was to grow a team. So we already started to think that, okay, if we can wave a magic wand, till this day, I ask myself that question. I ask my clients the same question, especially in investing in real estate. Like, if you could wave a magic wand, what would be the perfect situation? And once we started to really put some thought to it, it was, it'd be really cool if we had a team of realtors where myself and that business partner at the time could be the rainmakers, bring in our clients that are thinking about doing business with us. But what we did was coach our real estate agents, and our dream and vision till this day is still to get to 100. We're at 47 currently. And they go out and help these buyers, sellers, and investors. And all while still be building our personal business. So to answer your question directly, Mike, like, what did we do for our own business, has always starts with, let me rephrase that, with building on a strong foundation, which for us is the people that already know you, like you, and trust you. And I know there's a real estate agent or a salesperson or a business person who's listening or watching right now and saying, oh my God, the same thing. Yes, it is the boring stuff that works. Like, I don't know anybody who really enjoys brushing their teeth twice a day, 3 times a day, but we know we got to do it. It's the boring stuff. You know what I mean? And because you do it, you have better teeth and better health and so on and so forth. And it's the same thing in sales. Like, if you're just I'm not saying only focus on that, but understand that you gotta start there. You have to start with the people that know you, like you, and trust you. Not only for them to do business with you, it's the fact that they, on average, know 200 people. So if you know 200 people that know 200 people that know 200 people, your network now is over 40,000 people. And if you're from the if you're cut from the cloth that believes that your net worth will always be determined by your network, I mean that's kind of the phrase that's been coined in the late, in the last 5, 7, 8 years. But we all know, if you're older, and some of you might be looking at both of us, Mike and I, and saying, what the heck are these guys talking about? But it's, who do you have in your Rolodex, right? Who do you have in your cell phone? All this has never changed. And so for us, it always started with building out that foundation with people that know us, like us, and trust us, so they can introduce us to their network. And they'll only do that if you take care of them, not only by meeting their expectations, by really exceeding those expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and for a lot of people that want to overcomplicate things, there's really only two types of people in the world: the people you already know and the people you don't know. And so either you have enough people in your world that you know to get your goals, or you're going to have to turn the have-not-mets into the have-mets. And so, it's finding ways to do that, and putting systems in place to stay in touch with those folks. But obviously, I love what you're saying, highlighted by giving them great service. I think, that is the key foundation, because otherwise you're just kind of, burning fumes here. If you're not really doing a great job for them, you can go meet a bunch of people that you don't know, but you're always going to kind of feel like you're running into the wind if you're not giving a good quality product and good quality service to people.
Yeah, I for sure, Mike. I mean, and that's the difference in my eyes, anyways, between a transactional salesperson, real estate agent, business person versus a relationship-based salesperson, business owner, advisor, call it what you want, because the relationship salesperson understands that, okay, you know what, this might cost me a little bit of time and money up front, but if I can just make this person say, wow, right? Like, I think if every person that's watching and listening right now could just count the wows that they get from clients. And because if you're thinking about that, now you're going to try to find ways to make them say wow. Because if they keep on saying wow, they're going to tell their friends and family. They will, because when your network's at a cocktail party and someone says real estate, you want that army of people to say, my man, talk to 1,000 people, but do not make a decision until you talk to Mike. He really is the expert in this field, right? That's what you want. That's what you're trying to accomplish. Now, when we started to get into the digital world, and I know you and I are going to dive into that, like when we started to get into the digital world and producing content, it was never to even get the new people. That's been a bonus to us, to myself, for my personal brand, for my company, for all my agents. It was really just to provide value to the people that we already knew, right? And so what we wanted to do is start with and lead with education. There's a reason why when we had started getting questions on buying, selling, and investing, we put a book together. We don't sell this book, like it's not for sale. We just give it away for free. In fact, it teaches people how to buy on their own, how to invest on their own, how to sell their own home. And yeah, we get a lot of kickback from agents saying, what the heck are you doing? You're teaching people how to sell their own home. But yeah, like they can Google that. They can YouTube how to sell. Like, we're not the gatekeepers anymore. In fact, especially if you come to realize, they don't need real estate agents. You can close on a property with a lawyer, right? But what if you became the authority, gave away all the education for free, and then allowed the marketplace to make a quality informed decision themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got people that sell for sale by owner. And some of them are just dead set on that's what I want to do. But then some of them maybe haven't been exposed to the value of what a real estate agent can really do. You can sell your house yourself, but what I'm going to convince you of or help you self-discover is you will hit your goals. You'll probably net more money, and I will help walk you through this complex process, navigating, some of these homes have 10, 15, 20 offers. And then even from a legal standpoint, making sure that I'm not doing something that I'm not supposed to do. And you can't just say, oh, I didn't know because I don't have my real estate license, So it's me as a professional coming to you saying, here's how I can add value to the relationship. And there's a cost for it, but I can show you how I can help you for that cost. So yeah, we didn't invent selling real estate on your own, but what we're trying to show is by using us, we can add more value to that than when you try to do it on your own.
Look, it's there's definite value in using a real estate agent, but if you think that they actually need us, and I'm not saying you, Mike, I'm saying to anybody who's watching or listening, then I think you're starting off on the wrong foot, right? Understand that they don't, but then educate them on how you make it easier, not how you specifically, but how it could be done easier with the help of a real estate agent, even when you're buying, selling, or investing. And I think then look, in Canada, only 2% of the nation actually sells their own home. In the States, it's probably close to 10%. Call it 10%, right? Yep. Is that the number, Mike? So why even focus on the 2 or the 10% in Canada? To say, why not go after the 90 to 98% of people that we know already want to use our service?
Yeah. Well, and I think about it too, like a different analogy is, hey, I can hire an accountant or I can hire a tax person, but I don't want to because I know how to do math. I can count and add, so I don't need somebody to help me with my taxes. That's kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, you technically can do math, but an accountant or a good tax advisor can help you in a lot of different ways. There's nothing magical about what they do. Just like with the real estate agent, it's not like there's magic there, but it's the whole package. It's the service, it's the knowledge, it's the experience. And then you don't have to take on those headaches and problems yourself too. Like taxes, when I got my first rental property, I was like, I'd rather just have somebody else do that for me than for me to spend time and try to figure it out. And so for me, the funny thing is my birthday is in March, and I would always have my tax appointment on my birthday. I would take off from work. This is before I was in real estate, take off from work and go do my taxes on my birthday because I like the finality of it's done and I can move on and I have somebody else doing it for me, So that's where, that same analogy can make sense in real estate. Like, yeah, they can sell the house themselves, but there's so much more that I can offer, which is why you would want to work with me versus doing it on your own.
I definitely agree, brother. Definitely agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So your team's growing. Talk to me then a little bit about how the marketing branding stuff started to build and grow throughout your business as it grew.
Yeah. So probably about 7-8 years ago, we had a national syndicated radio show. And we started to realize that, yes, we're getting heard on the radio and clients are calling us, but not like at a massive scale, even though it was a huge radio show and great feedback. But one thing that we started to realize really quickly was here in the city of Toronto, most of our growth till this day, and back then as well, 8 years ago, was with condos. And because we kind of on a real estate island, very similar to Manhattan, where there's not a lot of space to grow out this way in homes. You can only grow up with condos. And so those developers started reaching out to us and say, wow, you guys have a radio show. Like, do you mind if we talk about our project? And we're like, sure, come on over. They would come to the show, and it started to get our foot in the door with these developers to get first access on some of these units for our investor clients and ourselves as well. So we started to create wealth that way by just investing into real estate. And what happened is then after having the radio show for about 4 years or so, 5 years, my partner then also passed away, and that radio show was costing us about, I'm gonna say about $200,000 to $250,000, right? I mean, Canadian, so American, call it about $125,000, $150,000 a year, and so it just didn't make sense to continue down that route. But then I heard this word podcast, and I was like, what the heck is a podcast? I've never heard this before. So I Googled it, and I was like, this is cool. You just got to talk into a mic, like being in sales for the last 26 years, I've been on a lot of phone calls. No one's ever told me that like I have the most sexiest, sultry voice, but on the flip side, no one's ever said to me like, do you have a disgusting voice? I was like, I think I can do this podcast thing. And I don't need a camera. That's cool. I don't like really the camera and all that. That's obviously changed. I like to have 7-8 cameras on me now. But at that time, I wasn't really that comfortable or cared for it. And then being of East Indian descent, I mean, my mom negotiates over apples back home. I found out that it was free. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world, that I could speak to anyone in the world, distribute it to anyone in the world, sorry. And it's my show. Like, I can call it my name. I can talk about whatever. Nobody can kick me off, which is slightly different than the radio show. You have all these slots and you got to be careful on what you talk about. And so that's when I started the podcast. And I said, look, I'm going to make this all about how to buy, how to sell, how to invest. Kind of go, because this book we wrote 10 years ago, but we've obviously changed the versions and all that and added and updated. I was like, I'm just going to kind of follow that blueprint. It's worked for us. Like, just educate people, let people be a fly on the wall of conversations that I'm already having with a lawyer and a mortgage broker, like an insurance person, an economist. But about after 20 episodes, Mike, I got to tell you, I was bored of my own podcast. It was like, how many times am I going to talk about this? Like, okay, it's a little too much now. And at that time, my co-host and now my VP, Laura, she looked over and said, yeah, I got to tell you, Jas, I'm kind of bored of it too. Like, what else do you like? She luckily has a background in marketing and communications and branding, as an MBA. And I said, well, I love entrepreneurship. I love business. I love talking about the ups and downs. I don't want to preach on them because I mean, I have so much to learn, but I've done a lot, and sales is like, I owe everything to the sales industry more than the real estate industry. I owe everything to the sales industry. I would love to just talk about like what I've experienced. And she said, let's do that. But let's continue to talk some real estate stuff. Let's go to that 50-50 ratio. And I was like, really? You can do that? Like, I can talk about that kind of stuff and it's not going to be weird? She's like, no, Jas, I took a course in my MBA that spoke specifically about personal branding. And this is what it's about. And she kind of drew this out for me on a whiteboard. She said, look, your personal brand is up here. We let people connect with you as a personal brand because it's a lot easier for the marketplace to connect with a good looking guy like you. That was my cue for all the viewers to take a deep look at me.
We don't have a laugh track. We're not going to put a laugh track.
Damn. Okay. But it's a lot easier for somebody to connect with another person personally than it is like a company brand, right? Like, it's easier to connect with a CEO than Coca-Cola, for example. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I want to give this a shot. At the same time, I started to get into Gary V, and I was like, oh, I kind of like what this guy has to talk about. Laura, look, it's kind of similar to what you're saying. I want to give this a shot. Let's go all in. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I only know how to do things one way. Like, there's no hybrid with me. Let's go to the extreme. I was like, I'm not going to do any more branding I'm not going to do any other marketing, the just listed and the just sold. I'll let the agents do that. Me personally, I only want to do content. And that was the start of the podcast. Episode 21 is when I started to bring on entrepreneurs. You could tell the difference in my voice. You could see a bigger smile because I was talking about things that made me happy, which also includes real estate. But then it allowed me to have these conversations with the Gary V's, Grant Cardones, Patrick Bet-Davids, Robert Kiyosaki, like you said the names. But it also allowed me to have conversations with a Jason Faulkner that nobody here would know who the heck that is, but he opened up a clothing business here in Toronto, and it's a small business. There's no bricks and mortars to it, but I was just documenting his story. It actually happens, those episodes happen to actually be my most listened to. I have a feeling because the average person can connect with him more than they can connect with the Gary V or Grant Cardone because they own $500 million companies, right? It's hard to relate to someone like that. You're not as relatable, right? But that's when my clients started saying, wow, Jas, this is different. Like, this is kind of cool. Like, we get to be a fly on the wall, and you're educating us. And I don't know if you know what you're doing, even in terms of like, we're actually learning a lot. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, keep it up. In fact, I'm sharing it with my friends and family. And that's when the light bulb started to come on. Like, I was like, oh, right. It's so much easier for them to share a podcast, a piece of content that's 30 seconds, like a short or reel, than it is me always asking the question, hey, Mike, do you know anybody who's thinking about buying, selling, or investing right now? So I stopped asking that. I didn't need to anymore, because then what also started to happen, which is really, really the biggest return, let me say it like that, which is, and this is for everybody who's watching or listening as a salesperson, because we all go through this. In the first 20, 30 minutes of any conversation with a new prospect, all you're doing is trying to build some type of credibility or build some type of rapport with them. But what content allowed for, the ice was broken already. They already made the decision that, you know what, I kind of like what Jas is talking about. I want to get to know more. Or they said, ugh, I hate the fact that he wears t-shirts and hoodies all the time when he does all these videos, and he talks about investing in real estate and creating wealth. I'll never do business with him. And that was awesome as well, because I wasn't wasting their time. They weren't wasting my time. So I'm only working with people that are connecting with me at some type of level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're able to work, instead of a one-to-one, it's a one-to-many, but the people that follow you, yeah, really, really know you. You know, there's people that have told me like, oh, I listen to every episode. Well, now it's like they know me. I don't know them as well as they know me, but at the same time, you do have that rapport and that credibility and that trust with somebody because they can see you. This is why I talk with my real estate team about making videos. Like, you need to have, just like a professional athlete, or I should say like a high school athlete trying to get a college scholarship, you need to have game tape out there of who you are and what you can do. It's the same way in real estate. Like, you need to have game tape out there because they're going to Google you. They're going to try to find out more about you. And you'd rather that they find a video of you talking about a business that you love, or talking about a market update or something like that, than hey, I went and saw that you have 5 previous sales on Zillow and no reviews. Like, you know, put a video out there where they can come find you and find information about you. And then too, like here in a conversation, you can see like, hey, that Mike guy, he seems pretty nice. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to trust me with all your secret codes and passwords, but at the same time, like, it's like, oh, he seems like a pretty decent guy. He seems like somebody that I wouldn't mind working with.
Or
At least you can build that relationship now.
yeah, Mike. I mean, you said about that person that who said, you know, Mike, like, I wouldn't mind working with Mike. Even just before that, and what we're really looking for as salespeople is just give me a call to get to even know me more. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, even if you haven't made your full decision that you want to work with me, and I understand that, right? Like, I mean, the product and service that we have is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars at times, right? And so I just want someone to say, you know what, I want to get to know him a little. Like, I want to get to know about his product or service a little more. And again, on the flip side, I love all the people I've never met because they don't like me. Because right. We're not wasting anyone's time, because that's the one thing I can't get back. I can get all the money back. I can get back all my deals and all that kind of stuff. I just can't get back my time. And now I'm not going through meetings and consultations where like we just weren't even meant to talk, you know, like it was never going to work. Like, you go on that blind date and you're like, wow, are we ever on on different pages? Or at least now I go on these blind dates and it's like, all right, like, we kind of checked each other's Tinder profile out a little bit and we're okay with each other a little bit. Let's go to the next stage.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit then about, you know, we like to focus on, you know, growing to, you know, kind of time and financial freedom is the goal for most people. And a lot of people will say, you know, hey, I love what I do. I never work a day in my life. I'm never going to retire. And that's okay, because you're building the life that you want, that you don't have to work. But talk about that evolution as you look at where you've come from, where you're at now, and where you want to go. Kind of some of that time financial freedom. Obviously, you've got great people around you that are helping you out, so you don't have to carry the whole load yourself. So that's really important. But how has your life changed as this stuff has started to build and grow and gain momentum for you?
Yeah, I think the vision that my ex partner and I had at that time, and now it's the same vision as my current partner, because at one time we were all three were together, is understanding that in the real estate business, and we're not our own brokerage, we're an organization under a brokerage, but you can almost call us a brokerage within a brokerage. That's how it's all kind of set up. So we
Mm-hmm.
understood the dynamics and what it could reward you with if you do it right, which is residual income, because
Mm-hmm.
we needed to build the team once. We service them, we hold them accountable, and we support them, but when they do deals, we get paid, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's allowed for now. Now, when if I stop my own personal sales and the income that I earn, would I be happy with just the income that my team produces that I see? No. However, I could stop. If I wanted to, I could go to the beach tomorrow and just chill out and relax. I'm definitely cut from the cloth of what you mentioned earlier. I don't see myself stopping, because, like,
Mm-hmm.
as long as, knock on wood, I'm healthy. Like, I love what I do. I get to do what I do, in all honesty, and
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, I see me doing this for a very, very forever in some type of aspect. And so for me, I was able to build out this residual income, all while investing in real estate. And so as I made my, like, for all my income from my personal income from my own sales, which I do out of the 700, I probably do about 200 deals right from this desk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't show properties. I don't list properties anymore. That's all done with one of my 47 agents. The 200 properties that I directly do is new build stuff, the ones that clients are buying from blueprints, right? So they don't need to see anything.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I take all that income and I put it into investing into real estate, because I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. I want to make sure, my goal there is to have 10 properties each. I'm at 11 in total right now. I want to get to 10 for each of them. If I give it to them, it's a different story. Depends how they treat daddy and mommy. We'll make that decision later. However, I want to be able to have the opportunity to do that. And so for me, I've always invested in real estate at any time. Like, whenever I could financially do it and I had the right mindset, I would. Till this day, I continuously invest into real estate, but the residual income from my team, as well as the residual income, and not a lot of people think about it like this, the residual income from my network, because my database now, my network, the CRM, whatever you want to call it, generally does 200 deals for me every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I know at the start of the year, I'll be flirting around 175 to 200 a year, because I put in all that work with them and I continuously educate them, and to kind of tie up the conversation with content and branding. To your last question, what this is all meant for me now is, like, I'm in a condo project launch right now, where I launch a specific building. We get about 20 to 25 units. I do that 6 to 8 times a year. That's how I've designed it, which also gives my crew some rest, and then we can do the creative content stuff the rest of the time. But look, I do one webinar on a Saturday. I launched this project, and now my team is in the process of doing 19 to 20 contracts today. That to us is a little over $500,000, right? And from me doing the brunch once, also doing all the other content from before, it's all kind of tied together now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thinking about your content creation with these guests, because I know a lot of people are kind of probably dying to find out, like, how do you get connected with these people? Like, how does that even work to where you're now interviewing them on a video? So
I'm
share
relentless.
that. What's
Yeah,
that?
I'm pretty relentless, man. I come from the time, like, where you just continuously follow up with people until they tell you that they're ready to move forward with you, or tell you to F off. But I do it in a very, very classy way. I like to think anyways. I don't harass people. But I don't take, like, if they say no, to me, that generally means not yet, until they say never,
Right.
And so the Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, all the names. Gary V and Grant Cardone specifically took me over 1.5 years. right? To continuously follow up with their team. Not like worse than a no, in my opinion, or a not yet is them not even replying back.
Yeah.
Because then they just go cold. But I just continuously had that fortitude of going back. Like it's the same thing with a client, right? Like I know right now I have 9,500 investors and buyers and sellers in my CRM, and I call them REC insiders. And what we do is we reach out to them 50 times a year in some type of format. We either call them, we email them, we send them a mailer, we do a barbecue, a charity event. There's about 50 ways that I'm in front of their face every single year. And so you build up these follow-up systems. Then I knew that to get podcast guests and get interviews, I had to do the same thing. And that's exactly what I did to get those names. I get that question a lot. And I think it surprises people, my answer. I think it does anyways, which is I just follow up. I just keep asking. I keep asking. There's some people on my list right now that I've been working on. Anthony Robbins, for example. He hasn't been on my podcast, but he was someone that was a massive Anthony Robbins and Jack Canfield, to be exact. Jack Canfield's partner, Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. He was on my podcast, but Jack Canfield and Anthony Robbins, I've been following up for a year and a half. I haven't even heard back. Anthony Robbins' team said no. So if you're listening, I would love a shot at it. But I'm just going to keep going until they do it or they say never.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good sales and real estate habits there too, because I know Ryan Serhant talks about, what was it, like the largest sale or something like that in Florida, or is like $45 million or, some insane number.
Like 100 million, I think he did, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But he followed up with the guy for like 9 years. And so it's like, okay, do you want to have that type of sale? Yes. If I told you it was going to take 9 years of follow-up, would you do it? Everybody would say yes, knowing the end result is there. The problem is how many times do you follow up with those people and you don't get that end result and they just give up and quit?
I'm going to tell you 99%, 99.99999% of people. In fact, the proof's in the pudding. It's why Ryan Serhant got that listing and nobody else did. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just, there's like, man, there's probably 10 people on this planet that would have done that. Like, that's how confident I am. There's probably 10 people on this planet that would have followed up for 9 years to get that business. To me, those are obsessed people. And I mean that in the most kind way possible, because they remind me of the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants out there, the Messis, probably Ronaldo more than anyone else. But I mean, you're just at a different level. Like it takes obsession to hear that many no's and to continuously follow up for 9 years. Like, that's really cool. I'm so proud of those type of stories. Sat down with Ryan for a good hour or so, and you could tell he this was before, it wasn't before the show. It was definitely before the Ryan Serhant that we see now, media company, all that. But he sat there and told me and my VP that he was going to do exactly what he's doing right now. And it's just so cool to see. It's so cool to see.
Mm-hmm. So speaking about future, then what would be some plans that you have in the future?
Well, look, I think definitely we're not done here growing our team from 47. We're going to take that to 100 agents. Yep. I mean, it's hashtag road to 100 agents. That's for sure. We'll get there. I think it's going to take us about 2.5 to 3 years to do it properly with the right crew. I want to be on a lot more stages. There's the Scotiabank Center here, known as the Air Canada Center, where the Raptors and the Leafs play. I want to fill that up, and that's a massive goal of mine, where there's 19,342 people. That's how much they take for at full capacity. I know the number. I know what I'm looking for. And you know what? Just continuously grow the crew around me. The 4 or 5 people that spend every single day with me, other than Sunday, I want to see that grow to 100 people as well. On top of the agents, we started a media company, a couple of us, where we actually produce content for real estate agents, because we got asked, like, Jas, how do you do 15 to 20 pieces of content a day on all the platforms? Can you help us do that? And so I'm just really, like, I get to wake up every single morning and come into this office and create. And that's what kind of keeps my juices flowing. I mean, I'm hoping to hit some of those targets I mentioned to you, but just the journey, the process of trying to hit those numbers, that in itself, it excites me. I'm not a flashy guy. Not that there's anything wrong with the suits and the Rolexes and the Breitlings and stuff like that. I'm just not really into them anymore. I used to be. I'm a simple guy. I wear the same t-shirt. I change the t-shirt. It just looks the same every single day, and come in and I get to create with a bunch of people that make me smile. And when that doesn't make me happy anymore, I'll change it. I'll do something different. I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier yesterday, and I was just telling him, every time he asked me when you get on a podcast or do a webinar now, Jas, do you still get a little nervous? I was like, I don't know if the word is nervousness, maybe it is, but I always get some butterflies in my stomach. I go, the day that stops sometime, because then I know that there's really no challenge, right? So I got on today and I was like, shoot, I'm going to do something with Mike. We haven't met before, but I still had a little queasiness in my stomach, which tells me I'm alive. I don't want to not have that feeling, because then it's probably getting mundane or just it's just becoming clockwork, and that doesn't excite me. So as long as that keeps on happening, I'm going to keep doing content, man. That's something that really makes me happy as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jas, for coming on. How do folks get a hold of you that want to learn more about you? And obviously for those folks that are interested in, real estate needs in Toronto area, how do we get a hold of you?
Well, I really appreciate that, Mike. I mean, my cup is full now. It's overflowing. So I'm just really wanting to give back as much as possible. But if there's a place to go and kind of a one-stop shop, I guess the easiest place to go is jastakhar.ca, my first name, last name, .ca, and you'll kind of figure it out from there. Do your digital deep dive. You'll see all my socials and blogs and all that. And if you like video, you'll see a ton of that. If you like audio, you'll see a ton of that. And if you like to read the written word, you'll see a ton of that. But I think the easiest place is jastakhar.ca.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jas. I appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing your story to inspire other people to do the same. I know there's a lot of people that would love to do what you're doing. And so thanks for being a blueprint for others and giving back as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you, man. I mean, especially at a time like this, at the recording here in mid-2021, we need a lot more positivity. That's the virus that I like to put out there, and you're doing a lot of that. So congratulations and kudos to you, Mike, because we just need more of that, and you're doing that. And so thank you not only for having me on, but for putting out so much positive content.